This episode of JTech Apple is brought to you by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes it fast and easy to create your own professional website or online portfolio. How's it going, guys? It's Justin here, and today I've got the review for you of the Apple iPad Air. This is one of the biggest changes to the iPad from the iPad 2. Yes, over the years we did see a Retina display being included, some regular speed bumps coming every year, and also the Lightning dock connector. However, this is the first time the device has been redesigned since the iPad 2, and Apple has really wanted to slim it down quite a bit. So right out of the box, you'll notice that this device is just so thin and light, and once you look at it, you'll see that the bezels are just so much thinner on both sides, and for reference, that is 43% reduction in size in terms of the bezels. So the device itself, for the most part, looks like a larger iPad mini. It is available in a silver and the newly introduced space gray this year. That comes in a 16, 32, 64, and 128GB storage configuration, also in a cellular option. The device is now 28% lighter, weighing in at just 1 pound, and the thickness is now 20% thinner, and it comes in at just 7.5 millimeters thick. And what Apple would like to compare that to is the thickness of a pencil, which is just so amazing considering all the internals and what this tablet can do. And in my personal opinion, the overall slim down of the bezels, the thickness, and the weight of the device may actually be a good enough reason for certain people to upgrade to this device. It still retains the same display as the iPad 3 and 4 with a 9.7-inch display, LED backlit multi-touch IPS technology with a 2048 by 1536 resolution at 264 pixels per inch and 3.1 million pixels in total. You can see here that everything still is very sharp, looks very nice, and I really have no complaints over the display. For the most part, the hardware on the iPad Air was mostly anticipated, but one thing we weren't really sure about was the fingerprint sensor, which Apple wound up not putting into the iPad, which for some may be a disappointment, but when you think about it, you won't really have to use it that much because it's a tablet. On the inside, for the most part, it stays the same to the iPhone 5S. It has the Apple A7 processor with 64-bit architecture, along with the M7 coprocessor for motion. This is said to bring you a 2x CPU and GPU performance compared to the previous generation, the iPad 4, and it still retains a 10-hour battery life, which from use, it definitely did last 10 hours. But even with all the added performance of the device, you may not really notice any difference whatsoever in the everyday tasks. The previous generation, the iPad 4 and even the iPad 3 was already pretty fast. And just for comparison, coming from the iPhone 5, moving to the iPhone 5S, I really didn't notice any difference in terms of my everyday tasks. So you should expect the same for the iPad Air, and decide accordingly if it's a worthy upgrade for you. So you can see that the iPad Air did come out with a really impressive score on Geekbench, and comparing it with the iPhone 5S, which shares the same processor and coprocessor, they did come out to have a score almost the same. However, the iPad Air did edge it by a little bit. Moving on to the software, the iPad Air ships with iOS 7, which brings you a nice overhaul in terms of the design and how the operating system actually works, but also a few different functionalities. So let's take a quick look at it. I'm sure a lot of you have already used iOS 7 in some shape or form. So on the main menu, you've got all your proprietary apps, but one of the things I think Apple did a very good job in adding in is the control center. That makes it very handy to access some quick features, your audio, music that's playing, your quick toggles such as airplane mode, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and also the brightness of the display, so you don't have to go through these settings like you did before. It makes it much easier. So moving on from that, here's just the general settings. Pretty much stays the same for the most part. The icons do change a little bit, of course, with the flatter look designed by Johnny Ive in iOS 7. And there you've also got the App Store, which I'm going to go into a little bit more detail later, but that is probably one of the best things to decide why you would want an iPad over an Android tablet. There's just a quick look at the photo booth application, which for a lot of people would be very fun to just play around with. And there's just the camera app. Some people do like to take pictures with their iPad regularly, though not too many, as it does look a little bit odd to be carrying around such a big tablet to take video and photos. But there's all your basic functions there. It is very easy to use. They've also added some new additions to the notification tab. You have your Today view. You can add a whole bunch of stuff there. There's also Siri Personal Assistant if you hope to use that to quick access some functions or ask you some questions. But in general, to cap it off with iOS 7, I would say that it runs extremely smooth on the Apple iPad Air. It looks really nice with its new flat design, very colorful, and I've really come to enjoy using it on such a large tablet. Perhaps one of the biggest reasons you would want to go with the Apple tablet instead of an Android tablet is the app optimization. With Android, they're pretty much just smartphone apps being blown up onto a larger screen real estate, while with the iPad, they have so many developers that have created applications to take advantage of the larger screen and really allow you to get the most out of an application. Apple's also wanted to push that by offering stuff like iPhoto, iMovie, GarageBand, Keynote, Number, and Pages absolutely free to encourage the use of the tablet for productivity, and I think that is definitely a really good move, and I've really liked to use those apps. On the rear, you've got your 5 megapixel camera with an f2.4 aperture. Apple hasn't really done anything groundbreaking or really anything to the camera this time. It is pretty much the same as opposed to the previous generations, as I can see that not being really on the top of Apple's priority list on a tablet. Using a tablet also allows you to get some really nice framing. I really enjoyed actually taking photos on a tablet, though I don't plan on using it in public. You see that the photos actually do look pretty good. If you zoom in a little bit, you will notice some distortion and some graininess in the backgrounds, some of which you can see in this picture, but considering it is a tablet, it is definitely up there in terms of the best cameras built into it, and I think it actually did do a pretty decent job. So let's move on to the video. This is just a video test, and I am also using the built-in microphone of the iPad Air shooting video. And I have to say, with a large tablet, it makes it very easy to grip and get some very stable shots. And of course, with a 9.7-inch display, the framing is very easy as well. But I do know a lot of people who just prefer not to shoot video with a tablet out in public, as it is pretty large and looks kind of strange. But I will say that it does work pretty nicely to suit your general needs. It isn't anything amazing, but it is actually pretty good considering it is built into a tablet. On the front, you've got your 1.2 megapixel FaceTime camera, and I would imagine that most people will be using this much more than they use a rear-facing camera for stuff like FaceTime, allowing you to call between iPhone, iPad, and Mac users around the world, as that does work pretty well, and it is also completely free. Looking at the photos from the front-facing camera here, I would say that it actually looks pretty decent, not that bad at all, considering there wasn't really much lighting in the room. Before we head out, let's take one last look at our sponsor. Squarespace is the all-in-one platform that makes it fast and easy to create your own professional website or online portfolio. They're constantly trying to improve their platform with new features, new designs, and even better support. They already have very beautiful designs for you to start with and all the style options you need to create a unique website for you or your business. They've also introduced a 3D shipping estimator that make it very easy for sellers to estimate the cost of shipping. Every design also includes a unique mobile experience that matches the overall style of your website, so your content will look great on every device every time. The plans start at just $8 a month, and it even includes a free domain name if you sign up for a year. For JTech Apple viewers, head over to the link to start your free trial now, no credit card required, and if you would like a discount on your first purchase, please use the coupon code JTech11. So now on to my final thoughts of the iPad Air. For a while, I've been waiting for the design of the iPad mini to be translated over to the larger iPad with the slimmed down bezels, and I really appreciate the look of that. The device itself is also much thinner in the hand, and it feels more like an iPad mini than the larger iPad. It is much lighter, and it just feels so good in the hand, and you will notice that right away when you take it out of the box. On the inside, you've also got some improvements as well with the Apple A7 processor and a 64-bit architecture and the M7 coprocessor, and although, like I said, coming from the 4th generation or even the 3rd generation iPad, you won't notice dramatic differences in everyday tasks, it really allows it to be future-proof for future applications that may want to take advantage of that power. To conclude, the big question is it worth the upgrade? For the most part, I see people coming from the iPad 2, and in that case, I would say you would be very happy to upgrade over to the iPad 5, but if you own the iPad 3 or 4, that would make it a tougher decision. It comes down to whether you are willing to spend the money, of course, but also if you really need the lighter and thinner form factor and would appreciate the lighter feel to the device, and also if you feel that you need the extra speed bump coming from the A7 processor. But aside from that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and let me know what iPad you currently have and if you plan on upgrading to the iPad Air, and I'll see you all in the next one.